First, the suspect accused of killing 4 college students in Idaho set to appear in court this afternoon in Pennsylvania. Bryan Kohberger, accused of stabbing 4 University of Idaho students to death in November. Police, of course, arrested him last week. Kohberger's attorney says his client will waive extradition to Idaho, where he faces 4 counts now of first-degree murder. It's been reported that investigators focused on Kohberger after his DNA matched genetic material recovered at the home where the students were killed. Police then tracked Kohberger to Pennsylvania, watching him for days as he crossed the country with his father in that vehicle that they've been looking for so long, that Altima. Court TV legal correspondent Julia Janae is in Pennsylvania for us, but we're going to begin with legal correspondent Shanley Painter, who has been covering this case since the very beginning, reporting from outside the suspect's apartment in Idaho.
Hey, good morning, Ted. News of the arrest of 28-year-old Bryan Kohberger is still setting in here at the apartments where he was living. For some, it's a combination of relief, but for others, a sense of shock that the suspected murderer was here for weeks after the murder.
Grad student at WSU, you know, that's terrifying. It's kind of what I suspected, that this was somebody that, you know, lived here, possibly went to school here. And for that to be confirmed was, yeah, it's scary.
Kohberger, a first-year PhD student at Washington State University, which is only about 10 miles from the crime scene near the University of Idaho, is expected to appear in court this afternoon in Pennsylvania for an extradition hearing. Kohberger was arrested on 4 counts of murder for the November 13th stabbing deaths of Kaylee Gonsalves, Madison Mogan, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. Last evening, I spoke with Shannon Gray, the attorney representing the Gonsalves family.
There hasn't been a resolution to the case. I mean, I think they're relieved that someone's been arrested for the crime, and they're hopeful that the police and the authorities and the prosecutor, they have all the evidence needed for a conviction.
Kohberger is maintaining his innocence, according to his court-appointed attorney, Chief Public Defender Jason Labar, who says he plans to tell a Monroe County judge in Pennsylvania that Kohberger will waive his extradition hearing so he can quickly be brought back here to Idaho to clear his name.
He is very intelligent. In my hour conversation with him, that comes off. I can tell that, and he understands where we are right now.
Kohberger's parents released this statement over the weekend, saying, "First and foremost, we care deeply for the 4 families who have lost their precious children. There are no words that can adequately express the sadness we feel and pray each day for them. We will continue to let the legal process unfold, and as a family, we will love and support our son and brother. We have fully cooperated with law enforcement agencies in an attempt to seek the truth and promote his presumption of innocence rather than judge unknown facts and make erroneous assumptions." As part of his PhD program, Kohberger was a teaching assistant here at Washington State University campus last semester. One of his students described his demeanor and how it changed before and after the murders.
The couple times that he did come after or around that time period, I remember him, you know, he had like a little bit more facial hair, just like stubble, but definitely less like well kept than he was. And he was a little quieter. You know, he used to stand up at the start of class and like talk about some stuff sometimes. And this time he didn't really do that at all. He was definitely, I think, like the previous like mental preoccupation that we had been noticing, where it was like, you know, he didn't really want to be there. That was at like an all-time high. And he just, you know, didn't look like he was doing great.
What remains unclear this morning is motive. We should learn more details once Kohberger makes an initial appearance in Idaho. For now, Ted, I'll send it back to you.
Our thanks to Shanley. Let's bring in Jeffrey Wolf. He's a criminal defense attorney in Denver, Colorado, and forensic psychologist John Delatorre. He is in San Antonio, Texas this morning. Good morning to both of you. John, to you first, what we know, what you know, all of us know now about this individual. What do you think? Getting into his head, he doesn't seem to be a close friend or acquaintance of one of the 4. We may learn soon that there is more information in terms of some sort of interaction with one of the 4 students. But what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think a lot of people want him to be all different kinds of things. They want a bright line connection between one of the victims. They want him to be a stalker of one of the victims. They want him to be just some monster. What I see is someone who was overwhelmed by the negative emotions and the negative thoughts that were going on in his head that he could not understand. I'm not surprised that he chose criminology as a path forward for his education. I do think he's probably an intelligent guy. I mean, he wouldn't have gotten as far as he did if he wasn't. But I think he was consumed by all of the negativity that was surrounding him that he couldn't quite understand. And he did whatever he could to try to make connections. But he probably is someone who holds on to resentments more than any other person would. And holding on to those resentments and being facilitated, having all of these negative criminological thoughts that are going on in your head and not knowing what to do with them. I'm not surprised then that other people would describe him as being aggressive later in his life, particularly if he was bullied earlier in his life. There's so much more to understand about who he was as a person and what propelled him into engaging in this thing that hopefully through a trial that we kind of figure out what else was going on.
Yeah, and of course, he maintains his innocence at this point, claiming that he wants to get back to Idaho to clear his name. Jeffrey Wolf, that process, this extradition process, it varies from state to state, and more importantly, it varies in terms of what the defendant wants to do. How quickly, conceivably, could he be back in Idaho?
Well, what's going to really matter is whether he waives extradition or not. If he waives extradition, he's going to be back in Idaho as quickly as they come pick him up. For a normal, everyday defendant, that can be days, weeks, sometimes even months. For somebody like him with a high-profile case where this is a high priority, my guess is if he waives extradition, he'll be back in Idaho by the end of the week at the latest. If he doesn't waive extradition, then he's going to have a right to a hearing. His lawyer's going to have a right to prepare, and this could drag on for weeks or months to get that hearing done, where Pennsylvania is going to decide if they're going to send him to Idaho. The big get-around for that is for the governors to get together and sign governor's warrants where the governor of Pennsylvania authorizes the governor of Idaho to take possession of him, and then that bypasses the whole thing. So there's a bunch of different things in place here that could slow down or speed up this timeline. I get a lot of calls from people with loved ones locked up out of state, and unfortunately, a lot of times what I have to tell them is it's a really unknown thing because there are so many moving parts to it.
Yeah, one would think in a case with this profile that he'll be on a government plane within hours of him waiving extradition, which is what we're expecting after his public defender in Pennsylvania has come out and spoken publicly about it. Corey Pegues is with us as well this morning. He is a retired deputy inspector with the New York Police Department. Good morning to you. Happy New Year, Corey. What we know in terms, it's been widely reported at this point that DNA is a factor here, that there was potentially DNA found at the scene. He wasn't in the database, so it takes a little while. How does that work? How do you, if you find some DNA, and this, we're assuming this, they find his DNA at the scene, and let's face it, these were 4 grisly murders. The likelihood of DNA being left was high. And it doesn't hit, he's not in the system. Give us a sense of how you think this all transpired.
Well, Happy New Year to the whole panel. So, you know, this crime scene was meticulously reviewed by the police officers. If it was just Idaho, it was the FBI, they went through. So they gather all the different DNA samples that's at the scene, and then they run it through the database. And once they run it through the database, if they get a profile, then they start looking at the different individuals whose DNA that they got, minus the 4 suspects. I mean, the 4 murdered people that was at the scene. And I believe once they saw that there was different DNA and maybe got a possible hit, it could be a possible hit from something, where they got DNA, you know, he might have had some DNA from somewhere else that went through the system. And once they identify him, that's when they started, you know, profiling and started looking at him. You know, one thing about these criminals, no matter how smart you are, DNA is everywhere when you get to a crime scene. It could be a hair follicle, it could be some sweat. There's a lot of stuff. So these criminals think that they're so smart that they would clean up the crime scene and, you know, wear gloves, T-Vex suits, that nothing will be left at the scene. And unfortunately for this gentleman here, this monster, if he allegedly did what he did, I'm glad that some DNA was found at the scene. So it's just another piece to make an ironclad case for the Moscow Police Department.
Yeah, and that arrest affidavit will be released once he makes his first appearance in Idaho, and at that point we should learn a lot more about the state's case against him, the reason they pulled the trigger on the arrest specifically.